Captain Elias Kane stood on the bridge of the HSS Vanguard and watched the dark stretch of space through the main viewport. The ship was quiet except for the low rumble of its old engines, a sound that had been with it for over 40 years. In a fleet where most ships were retired after 15, the Vanguard was an antique. Fleet Command wanted her gone years ago, but budget cuts and a lack of replacements had kept her alive. She was slow, heavy, and loud compared to the sleek new warships that glided silently through the void. Kane didn't mind. He trusted steel and manual controls more than he'd ever trust an AI. The others called her a relic. To him, she was reliable. The communications console beeped, and Ensign Marlowe called out, "Captain, incoming transmission from Fleet Command." Kane straightened his faded uniform. "Put it through." The main screen flickered, and the stern face of Admiral Foster appeared. His voice carried that tone Kane knew too well. This wasn't an important call. "Captain Kane, your patrol route is being changed. You're to proceed to Outpost Jericho on Station 9. They've missed 2 scheduled check-ins." Kane frowned. "Any signs of trouble, sir?" The Admiral gave a dry snort. "Probably another comm relay failure. All combat vessels are tied up near Europa. You're the only one in range." The way he said "you" made it sound like scrap heap. Kane gave a short nod. "Understood. We'll set course immediately." Foster's lips twitched in what might have been amusement. "Try not to break down on the way." The screen went black. From the helm, Lieutenant Drew chuckled. "Always nice to be appreciated." Kane ignored it and ordered, "Set course for Jericho. Maximum sustainable speed." Drew raised an eyebrow. "Sustainable speed for us isn't exactly fast, sir." "Do it," Kane said, his voice leaving no room for debate. The ship groaned as it turned, the hum of the old fusion drives deepening. The newer ships all ran on whisper-quiet quantum drives, but the Vanguard's engines sounded like a distant storm. Chief Engineer Maddox entered the bridge, his hands stained with grease. "I hear we're stretching the old girl's legs," he said. "She could use the workout." "We're heading to Jericho," Kane replied. "Missed 2 check-ins. Probably nothing." Maddox grinned. "That's what they always say right before something goes wrong." The Vanguard pushed through the black, its hull plates rattling slightly with each burst of thrust. Dinner in the officers' mess was the usual mix of bland rations and half-hearted conversation. Drew picked at his food. "So we go to Jericho, check on a bunch of miners, and head back. Sounds like the perfect nap mission." Kane gave a faint smile but didn't answer. He had been in the fleet long enough to know that quiet missions could turn loud very quickly. The comm unit on his belt buzzed. "Captain," Marlowe's voice came through. "We're picking up a signal from Jericho. It's an automated distress beacon, no voice transmission." Kane was already on his feet. "I'm on my way." On the bridge, the emergency code flashed on the screen. Simple, short, and grim. It only activated when a station system detected a major, possibly catastrophic event. "Distance?" Kane asked. Drew's voice was tight. 19 hours at current speed." Kane stared at the blinking light for a moment, then said, "Push the engines. I want there in 15. Maddox's head snapped up from the engineering station. "She won't like that." "She doesn't have to," Kane said. "Make it happen." The deck plates vibrated harder under their boots as the Vanguard picked up speed. The newer ships wouldn't even feel it, but here you could hear the ship working, metal straining, engines roaring. Kane felt a slow knot tighten in his gut. Mining stations didn't just go silent. Not without a reason. "Any other ships in the area?" "Negative," Drew said. "We're the only fleet vessel within 2 days of Jericho." Kane nodded. "Of course we are." He stepped forward until he was standing directly before the viewport, the stars streaking past. The old ship had been called outdated so many times he'd lost count. But right now, it was the only thing standing between Jericho's people and whatever had gone wrong. He turned back to his crew. "Set to alert condition yellow. I want all systems checked and ready." No one argued. The hum of work began to fill the bridge, boots moving quickly, hands on consoles, voices steady but quick. The lighting dimmed slightly, casting the crew in a warm red glow. Kane lowered himself into the captain's chair, creaked but held. His eyes stayed fixed on that flashing distress beacon, counting the seconds as the Vanguard charged ahead into the dark. Somewhere beyond that blinking light, something was waiting. And Kane had a feeling it wouldn't care that his ship was 40 years old. It would still try to kill them. When the Vanguard arrived, they would find out if the old ways were still enough to survive. The HSS Vanguard dropped out of faster-than-light travel with a low shudder that ran through the ship's old frame. The sight of Outpost Jericho filled the viewport, a dark gray station clinging to the surface of a dusty moon, its landing lights still glowing faintly in the thin haze of atmosphere. From a distance, it looked normal, but Kane felt it in his bones. Something was wrong. "Scan the station," he ordered, leaning forward in his chair. Lieutenant Drew's hands moved over the controls. "Life support systems are online. Power levels stable. But no movement. No heat signatures matching human activity." "No one?" Kane asked, his voice sharp. "Not a single reading," Drew said quietly. Marlowe shook her head from communications. "No response to hails. The distress beacon is still transmitting. But that's it." Kane rose to his feet and stepped closer to the viewport. The station looked intact. No damage to the hull, no scorch marks from weapons fire. It was silent, still, and that made it worse. People didn't just vanish without a trace. "Prepare a landing team," Kane said. "Drew, you're with me. Maddox, bring engineering gear. Dr. Voss, medical equipment." Drew glanced at him. "Captain, protocol says we should wait for backup in this situation." Kane's answer was firm. "Backup is 3 days away. If there's anyone alive down there, they don't have 3 days." They moved quickly. Maddox headed to the shuttle bay, already strapping on his tool belt. Voss packed a slim medical case, her face pale but steady. Kane left Marlowe in command of the bridge. "Keep the engines hot," he told her. "If we don't check in every 30 minutes, you lift off and call for reinforcements. No hesitation." The shuttle was another reminder of the Vanguard's age. A squat, angular craft that needed a pilot instead of flying itself. Drew took the controls, and the descent through the thin atmosphere was rough enough to rattle their teeth. When they touched down in the station's main square, the silence was heavy, pressing against their helmets. They stepped out into the cold, dry air. The buildings rose in neat rows, prefab metal units with the mining company's logo stenciled on the sides. Normally, a station this size would be alive with sound, footsteps, machinery, voices. Now, there was nothing but the wind whispering across the landing pad. "Stay sharp," Kane said over the comm. "We don't know what we're walking into." The streets were empty. Doors stood ajar. Tools lay abandoned where they'd been dropped. Kane stopped at the entrance to the mess hall and pushed the door open. The air inside was stale. Plates of food sat on tables, untouched but dried out, cups half full of liquid that had long since gone cold. Chairs were pulled back like the people had risen all at once and walked away. "Kane," Drew's voice crackled in his ear. "You're going to want to see this." He followed Drew's signal to the administration building. Inside, the main office was lit by a single overhead lamp. A large display screen showed frozen footage from a security camera. Drew tapped a control and the image came to life. The recording showed the colony 3 days ago. People moved through the square, talking, working, going about their day. Then, at 14:32 station time, they all stopped. Every single person. No one spoke. No one moved for a heartbeat. Then, as if obeying some silent command, they all turned their heads in the same direction and began walking out of frame. They didn't run. They didn't panic. They just left. Kane stared at the screen. Where were they going? Drew pointed at a map overlay. "The path leads toward the cargo tunnels." But that's not the strangest thing. He tapped a few keys and another display lit up, showing a graph of data transfers. At the exact same moment the people left, the station's network began uploading data. Massive amounts, personnel files, mining reports, private communications, everything. And it wasn't going to any Earth system. "Where then?" Kane asked. "Unknown." The signal was masked, Drew replied. But the energy signature isn't ours. It's something else. Maddox's voice cut in from the computer room. Captain, I'm in the main systems hub. You need to get down here. Kane and Drew made their way through narrow corridors lined with flickering lights until they reached Maddox. He stood over a console, the screen awash with strange blue patterns. Look at this, he said, pointing at a waveform. This is the energy that accessed the system. I've never seen anything like it. It's not human tech. Before Kane could respond, Dr. Voss entered, her voice tight. The medical center is empty. No patients, no staff. But the records show something strange. At the exact moment communications failed, every colonist's brain activity spiked. Same pattern, same time. It's like something reached into their minds all at once. A cold chill slid down Kane's spine. Something or someone took them. Before they could speak further, Marlowe's voice came urgently over the comm from the Vanguard. Captain, we're detecting a ship in the asteroid belt near the moon. It just appeared on sensors. No approach vector, no jump signature. What kind of ship? Kane demanded. Unknown design, Marlowe said. And sir, it's big. Much bigger than us. Kane looked at Drew and Maddox. The expressions on their faces told him they were all thinking the same thing. This was no coincidence. Whatever had happened here, whoever had taken the colonists, that ship was part of it. Get back to the shuttle, Kane ordered. Now. They moved quickly, boots thudding on metal floors as they retraced their steps through the silent streets. The shuttle bay loomed ahead, its doors still open to the cold air. Kane kept glancing at the sky, half expecting to see the shadow of a massive vessel blotting out the stars. They launched as soon as they strapped in, Drew pushing the shuttle hard toward orbit. The moment Jericho's surface fell away beneath them, Kane saw it, drifting among the asteroids, a dark shape that seemed to swallow the light around it, smooth and alien, with long shapes extending from its hull like reaching limbs. And it was moving toward them. The shuttle broke through the thin haze of atmosphere, and the stars opened up in front of them. But Kane's eyes were locked on the shape in the asteroid belt. It was huge, longer than the Vanguard by 3 times, its surface smooth and black like liquid metal frozen in motion. No running lights, no visible engines, and yet it drifted with an unsettling purpose, weaving between rocks as if it could see better than any machine. Drew's voice was low. It's coming straight for us. Get us to the Vanguard now, Kane said. His hand gripped the edge of his seat as the shuttle pushed hard, the engines whining. The alien ship moved faster, closing the gap in eerie silence. It didn't burn toward them. It just slid through space, as if nothing could resist it. They reached the Vanguard's hangar and touched down hard. The moment the hatch dropped, Kane was moving, helmet off, heading for the bridge with Drew and Maddox at his heels. Report, he barked as he stepped in. Marlowe's face was pale in the dim red lighting. They're hailing us, Captain. Not with voice, text transmission only. It's already translated into English. Put it on screen. The alien message appeared in clean, perfect letters. Human vessel. Your colony has been processed. Leave this system or be erased. A hush fell over the bridge. No one spoke. Kane kept his voice steady. Send them one question. What happened to the colonists? Marlowe tapped the console, and within seconds, the reply flashed across the screen. Their data and biological patterns have been taken. They are now part of the Sypher-8. Your vessel will join them. The words vanished, and the alien ship began to move faster. Long shapes extended from its hull, curling forward like claws. Evasive maneuvers, Kane ordered. Get us out of the belt. The Vanguard's engines roared, the ship turning sharply, but the alien vessel followed with terrifying precision. A sudden flash of pale blue erupted from its front, a wide beam of shimmering light that slammed into the Vanguard's stern. The lights flickered, consoles went black, and alarms wailed. Main computer offline, Drew shouted. Targeting systems dead. Navigation's gone. Maddox's voice came over the emergency comm line from engineering. They hit us with some kind of energy pulse. Every digital system is fried. But the analog backups are still running. We've still got engines, life support, and the old railguns. Kane felt a grim smile tug at the corner of his mouth. Then they've made a mistake. Helm, take us deeper into the asteroids. Let's see if their shiny tech can dance in real rocks. The Vanguard dove between massive chunks of stone, the old hull shuddering as thrusters fired in sharp bursts. The crew braced against sudden turns and hard rolls, maneuvers that would have thrown an AI-piloted ship into confusion. The alien followed, weaving easily at first. Kane studied it on the flickering sensor feed. They think we're just running, he muttered. Let's give them something they don't expect. Dr. Voss, standing at the science station with a clipboard of hastily scribbled notes, spoke up. That pulse, it wasn't random. It was tuned to overload complex circuitry. They're built to hunt advanced systems. I don't think they've ever fought anything like us. Kane glanced at her. Meaning our primitive tech isn't on their list of weaknesses, she said. They can't just erase us with one shot. Maddox's voice came again. Captain, I can modify a few torpedoes to fire an EMP at their exact frequency. Give me 30 minutes. You've got 20, Kane replied. The alien ship loomed behind them, its movements smooth and unhurried, like a predator certain its prey couldn't escape. Every so often it sent another blue pulse, but with most of their digital systems already down, it had little effect. Kane's eyes stayed locked on the asteroid field ahead. Bring us to a stop between those two big rocks, he ordered. The Vanguard slid into position, hidden from direct view. The alien vessel passed close, scanning, unaware of the trap. Fire torpedoes 1 through 4, Kane said. The old launch tubes groaned, and for glowing projectiles shot forward, their guidance rudimentary but aimed straight at the alien's heat signature. The enemy reacted too late. 3 of the torpedoes struck, detonating in bursts of electromagnetic force. On the screen, the alien ship twitched, its graceful motion suddenly jerky. Its extended arms began to retract, curling inward like something in pain. We hit them hard, Drew said, excitement breaking through his voice. Kane didn't smile. Don't celebrate yet. They're still alive. As if to prove him right, the alien ship turned toward them again. Its hull rippled like water, forming new protrusions that looked like weapon barrels. Brace! Kane shouted. A streak of blue energy shot past the Vanguard, missing the bow by meters and vaporizing a drifting boulder in front of them. Maddox's voice came through. Captain, EMP torpedoes are ready. And I've got something else, a little chaos field generator. Not tested. Might fry their whole brain or ours. Kane's gaze stayed on the alien. Load it. We might need it. The alien ship advanced, slower than before, but still dangerous. The crew moved with calm urgency, preparing the next strike. The old warship's rails clanged as solid tungsten slugs loaded into place. Kane stood behind the helmsman, his voice low and certain. They think humans can't win without computers. Let's teach them otherwise. The alien ship's shadow grew larger on the screen, and the asteroid field around them felt suddenly too small. Kane gave the order. The Vanguard roared forward. The Vanguard surged forward, weaving between the jagged walls of rock. The old ship rattled with every burst from its thrusters, the frame groaning like it was protesting Kane's orders, but she held together. The alien ship followed, sliding through the void with an unnatural grace. It didn't swerve or hesitate, its black hull shifting to avoid collisions at the very last second, like it could sense the asteroids before its sensors saw them. Kane stood behind the helmsman, giving sharp instructions. Starboard thrusters, hard now. Cut speed. Port thrusters, full. Bring us around. The ship spun sharply, passing within meters of a massive boulder. The alien vessel adjusted, still close behind. Dr. Voss watched the alien movements from her station. It's learning the field. Every pass, it's adapting faster. That's why we end this now, Kane said. Maddox, is that chaos field ready? It's armed and loaded in the forward bay, Maddox replied over the comm. Once we get close enough, I can fire it, but we'll have seconds before the interference messes with us too. Kane's gaze stayed on the alien ship, filling more and more of the rear display. We won't need more than seconds. The alien vessel's arms extended again, the long limbs curling like the claws of some deep-sea predator. A pale shimmer pulsed across its hull, its weapons charging. Hard to port, Kane barked. The Vanguard banked sharply, scraping the edge of an asteroid so close the crew could hear the rumble through the hull. The alien followed, but its sleek form clipped a smaller rock, sending shards of stone drifting into space. It didn't slow down. They're closing, Drew said, eyes flicking between his instruments and the view ahead. Distance less than 1 kilometer. Kane saw his opening. 2 giant asteroids were drifting toward each other slowly, the space between them narrowing like the jaws of a trap. Helm, take us between those 2. Maddox, prepare to deploy the field at the halfway point. We'll pass through. Let's see if they can. The Vanguard shot into the gap, the space narrowing with every passing second. The alien ship came after them, its hull rippling, reshaping to squeeze through the shrinking space. Now, Maddox, Kane ordered. From the forward bay, a metal capsule was launched straight into the gap behind the Vanguard. The instant it cleared the hull, it activated. The void lit up with a storm of flickering, chaotic energy. Random electromagnetic surges, jagged pulses of radiation, signals that made no sense. The alien ship slammed into the field head-on. The effect was instant. Its movements faltered, graceful flight turning into sudden jerks. Parts of its smooth hull warped and bubbled, the limbs retracting violently. The pale shimmer of its weapon systems sputtered out. They're blind, Voss said, staring at the readings. Their whole systems overloaded. Fire railguns, Kane commanded. The manual firing controls clanged as Jenkins squeezed the trigger. Twin barrels roared, hurling solid tungsten slugs into the alien's hull. The impacts tore jagged holes, pieces of black material spinning away into the asteroid field. Again, Kane shouted. Another volley hammered into the crippled vessel. The alien ship began to drift, momentum carrying it sideways into the wall of an asteroid. The collision cracked its hull open further, strange glowing filaments spilling into the void like the veins of some wounded creature. They're still alive, Voss warned. Readings show internal power surging. They might be trying to reboot. Kane didn't hesitate. Load EMP torpedoes. Fire on my mark. The torpedo tubes groaned as the weapons slid into place. The alien ship's limbs twitched weakly, as if trying to reach for the Vanguard one last time. Mark, Kane called. 2 torpedoes shot out, closing the gap in seconds. They struck deep into the largest breach in the alien's hull. A flash of silent light burst outward, rippling across the enemy ship. The glow in its filaments went dark. The limbs froze. The black hull stopped moving entirely. It's dead, Drew said quietly. Kane's eyes stayed locked on the drifting wreck. Not dead, he said. Just the first one. The crew exchanged uneasy glances. If this was only the first ship, then the others, likely bigger, faster, and smarter, were still out there. Retrieve whatever fragments we can, Kane ordered. I want samples, data, anything that tells us who they are and where they came from, and keep us moving. I don't want to be here when their friends come looking. The Vanguard's engines growled as they pulled away from the wreckage. In the quiet that followed, the crew worked quickly, tension hanging over every movement. Kane stepped to the viewport and watched the black shape of the alien wreck drifting among the asteroids, a dark reminder that they had just made a powerful enemy aware of them. Somewhere far beyond the reach of their sensors, he knew more of these ships were waiting, and they now knew humans could hurt them. The thought didn't scare him. It made him sharper. The Vanguard limped through the asteroid field, engines running low to hide its heat signature. The crew worked in near silence, every clang of a tool and hiss of welding echoing in the thin hum of the ship. Maddox and his engineers moved like ghosts through the maintenance corridors, patching holes and rewiring systems by hand. Sparks lit the dim spaces as damaged panels were replaced with whatever scrap they could pull from storage. Kane stood on the bridge, watching fragments of the alien wreck drift slowly in the distance. Dr. Voss had a table in the corner piled with the black, glassy shards they'd recovered. Her gloves were smudged with residue, her face tense as she studied the strange material. "Captain," she said without looking up, "this isn't just technology. This is alive in a way. These ships are made of something that can shift structure, adapt shape, even heal itself. And it reacts to signals, almost like muscle tissue reacting to a nerve impulse." "Could it still be reacting?" Kane asked. "Not anymore. Whatever powered it is gone. But if the others are built the same way, they'll adapt to what we just did to this one." Kane nodded. "Then we need to hit them harder before they have the chance." Marlowe's voice broke the moment. "Captain, incoming signal. No encryption. It's a pulse beacon, origin 3 million kilometers out." Drew looked at the readout and swore under his breath. "That's the outer edge of the system." "Contacts?" Kane asked. Marlowe's fingers danced over the controls. "Yes, sir. One large vessel entering at high speed. Twice the mass of the first." The bridge went still. The crew didn't need Kane to explain what that meant. The first alien ship had been a scout. This was something bigger. "How long until they reach us?" Kane asked. 30 minutes, maybe less if they push it." Kane's mind began turning over options. The Vanguard couldn't outgun something that size, not head-on. And running wasn't an option. Her engines were still limping. That left one choice. "We set a trap," he said finally. "Drew, prep one of the escape pods. I want it broadcasting a signal that looks exactly like our core signature. Maddox, load the pod with a modified EMP device. Bigger than the last one. Voss, help him tune it to the same frequency as the first ship systems." Maddox gave a short, grim nod. "You want them to think the pod is us. They'll come right for it. And when they do, we cut their legs out from under them." The crew moved fast. In the hangar, Maddox and his team tore into an old EMP charge, doubling the coils and overcharging the capacitors until the casing rattled. Voss worked beside him, adjusting the settings to match the readings from the first battle. "If this works," she said, "it'll blind them long enough for you to get in close." "That's the plan," Maddox replied. "But if we misjudge the power output, it might take us down too." Kane's voice came over the intercom. "Do it anyway. This is the only shot we're going to get." 20 minutes later, the alien ship appeared on the edge of the asteroid field. The display lit up with its silhouette, sleek like the first, but longer, heavier, with more of those curling limbs stretching along its sides. The black hull seemed to drink in the starlight, giving nothing back. "They've spotted the decoy," Marlowe reported. "They're changing course toward the pod." "Hold position," Kane ordered. The Vanguard stayed tucked behind a massive, slowly tumbling asteroid, silent except for the faint hum of the old analog systems. On the screen, the alien ship drifted closer to the pod, its limbs reaching. "Now," Kane said. Drew hit the remote trigger. A pulse of jagged light exploded from the pod, rippling across the void. The alien ship shuddered, its movement breaking for the first time, limbs snapping back toward its hull. Energy readings on the bridge danced wildly. Its systems were in chaos. "Helm, take us in," Kane ordered. The Vanguard surged from behind the asteroid, railguns already loaded. The first volley tore into the alien's side, chunks of its strange armor breaking away. The second volley slammed into one of its weapon pods, sending pieces spinning into the dark. "They're recovering," Voss warned. "Systems coming back online." "Maddox, deploy the chaos field," Kane snapped. From the forward bay, the small device launched, spinning toward the alien vessel. When it activated, space between the ships seemed to flicker and ripple like heat haze. The alien ship jerked again, movements growing erratic. Kane's voice was calm but sharp. "Jenkins, all railguns. Fire until we're empty." The ship shook with the rhythm of the shots. Every slug found its mark, tearing deeper into the wounded enemy. "They're venting something," Drew called out. "Looks like fluid? Glowing, maybe power source material." "Stay on them," Kane said. The alien ship's limbs flailed, curling inward. Its hull began to collapse in sections, black plates folding and breaking apart like brittle ice. A sudden white flare burst from its core, and then the massive shape imploded, leaving only a spreading cloud of debris. The bridge was silent for a moment. Then Maddox's voice came over the comm, breathless. Target eliminated. But if that was just one of their bigger ships, Captain, they're not done with us. Kane's eyes stayed on the drifting wreckage. No, they're not. The debris from the alien ship drifted slowly through the asteroid field, glinting faintly in the light of a distant star. The Vanguard kept a careful distance, her hull scarred and blackened from the fight. On the bridge, no one spoke for a long time. The silence was heavy, the kind that settled in after a close brush with death. Kane stood at the viewport, eyes locked on the wreckage. He knew what everyone else was thinking. If that was only one of their heavier ships, what would happen when the rest arrived? Maddox's voice came over the comm from engineering. Captain, we've managed to pull in some of the debris. Most of it's inert now, but some pieces, they're strange. Almost like they're still alive. Bring them to the lab, Kane said. A few minutes later, Dr. Voss was bent over one of the larger shards on a workbench in the Vanguard's cramped science bay. The black surface shifted under the light, patterns rippling across it like faint waves. It's not just metal, she said quietly. It's a hybrid of technology and something biological. The material reacts to electromagnetic pulses like muscle responding to nerve signals. Kane stepped closer. Can it be traced? Back to wherever they came from. Voss tapped a scanner. Some of these pieces still carry data patterns. They're damaged, but not completely erased. If I can decode them, we might learn where they're operating from. Do it. Priority 1, Kane ordered. For the next few hours, the Vanguard stayed hidden among the asteroids while the crew worked. Maddox led repairs to the main power conduits, rerouting damaged circuits through old analog backups. Sparks lit the hallways, the smell of burned wiring hanging in the recycled air. In the lab, Voss worked without rest. Her eyes fixed on the shifting data streams her jury-rigged equipment managed to pull from the alien fragments. Finally, she called Kane to the lab. I've got something, she said, pointing at the screen. These are coordinates. Not one set, dozens. Each marked with an alien glyph. What do they mean? Kane asked. Voss's voice was grim. I think they're targets. Human colonies, outposts, stations. Some are deep in settled space, others on the frontier. But the worst part, next to each one is a timestamp. I think it's when they plan to process them. Kane stared at the list. Jericho had been marked for this week. Others were listed for the coming months. One was less than 3 weeks away. How many ships will they send? I can't say, Voss replied. But the patterns suggest the 2 we faced were just forward scouts. The main fleet, it's still out there. The weight of it pressed down on Kane's shoulders. If the fleet hit the core worlds with the same weapons, humanity's newest ships would be nothing but prey. Marlowe's voice cut through the moment from the bridge. Captain, long-range comms are partially restored. We can send a compressed burst message, but only once before the system burns out again. Kane didn't hesitate. Prepare a transmission to Fleet Command. Include everything, battle data, wreckage scans, the target list. Minutes later, he was on the bridge, standing over Marlowe's shoulder as the data compiled. Send it, he said. The signal shot out into the void, a thin thread of hope traveling toward Earth. Drew looked over at him. If they believe us, they might actually start preparing. But if they don't, they'll believe us, Kane said firmly, though he knew it wasn't a certainty. They won't have a choice. Voss stepped onto the bridge, a fresh data pad in her hand. There's one more thing. The fragments. They've been communicating with each other. Or at least they were before we separated them. They were sending pulses across short range, searching for the rest of the fleet. Kane's jaw tightened. So the others know something happened here. They might already be on their way, Voss said. The crew absorbed the words in silence. Kane looked around at their faces. Tired, bruised, but still ready. We can't fight their whole fleet alone. But we've found their weakness. And that means we have a chance. Maddox, start working on more of those EMP warheads. Voss, keep digging into that data. See if we can learn anything about their command structure or how they coordinate. Drew, I want a course plotted to the nearest secure station where we can resupply without drawing attention. Drew nodded. That'll put us close to the fringe. Quiet sector. Good, Kane said. We'll need time to get ready. The Vanguard's engines rumbled as they pulled away from the wreckage. Through the viewport, the cloud of alien debris grew smaller and smaller, until it was just another dark shape among the asteroids. Kane knew the image would stay with him. This wasn't victory. It was the first step in a much longer fight. Somewhere out there, the Sypher-9 fleet was moving, and they wouldn't underestimate humans a second time. 8 days later, the HSS Vanguard emerged from the dark of deep space and into the safety of Earth's outer patrol zone. The ship looked like it had survived the end of the world. Scarred hull, patched sections along the bow, and streaks of black from energy burns. She moved slowly, but she was still moving, and that was what mattered. As soon as they crossed into range, Fleet Command hailed them. The main screen lit up with the stern face of Admiral Foster, but this time there was no sarcasm in his voice. Captain Kane, your report caused quite a stir. We've been in emergency session since receiving it. Kane stood straight, the faint hum of the old engines behind him. Sir, you've seen the data. The Sypher-9 aren't a normal enemy. They can wipe out any ship that relies entirely on digital systems. Our new destroyers would be helpless against them. The only reason we survived is because of the Vanguard's outdated systems, analog backups, manual controls. They couldn't touch us the way they can touch the others. Foster nodded, his expression grim. The Council has already begun retrofitting every combat vessel with analog redundancies. And more than that, your ship has become the model for a new class of hybrid warships. Modern power, old-school resilience. Drew, standing at the helm, let out a low whistle. So, we're famous now? Famous and busy, Foster said. Captain Kane, you've been ordered to remain in active duty. You and your crew will oversee the integration of these systems into the fleet. And you'll be leading the first squadron designed specifically to fight the Sypher-9. Marlowe turned from her console, eyes wide. A squadron. Kane felt the weight of it settling on him, but he didn't flinch. We'll need every ship we can get before they arrive. Foster's voice grew heavier. We decoded the rest of the target list you sent. They're not just coming for fringe colonies. They're coming for the core worlds. That includes Earth. A quiet tension filled the bridge. No one needed to say what that meant. The fight they'd had here, out in the quiet dark, had just been the opening move. After the transmission ended, Kane walked the length of the bridge, looking at each of his crew. Maddox, still smudged with grease from patching the engines. Voss, tired but sharp-eyed after days of decoding alien data. Drew, steady at the helm. Marlowe, quick and precise at communications. Every one of them had faced something no human had seen before, and beaten it. You've all done more than survive, Kane said. You've shown the fleet that the Sypher-9 can be fought, that they can be beaten, and we're going to teach every ship in the fleet how to do it. Maddox grinned faintly. Guess the old girl isn't ready for the scrapyard after all. Kane smiled at that. No, she's going to lead the fight. They docked at Earth Orbital Station 1, greeted not by a quiet maintenance crew, but by rows of saluting officers and engineers eager to examine the Vanguard. The sight was strange, this patched and weathered ship treated like a hero. Kane walked down the ramp with his crew beside him, the station's bustle roaring in his ears. In the station's main briefing hall, the Defense Council had gathered. At the center stood a large holographic display. Footage of the Vanguard battling the alien ships, railguns firing, chaos field blooming in space, the Sypher-9 collapsing under the assault. Kane and his crew took their seats while Dr. Voss presented her findings. She explained the alien weakness, the risk to the fleet, and the need for immediate retrofitting. Her voice was calm, but her words were a warning that couldn't be ignored. The council members asked questions, debated tactics, and finally agreed on the plan. Every ship in the fleet would get analog backups. New weapons modeled on the Vanguard's EMP systems would be built. And Kane's crew would be the ones to train the next generation of captains in low-tech warfare. Later that night, Kane stood at a station viewport, looking down at Earth's blue curve. Drew came to stand beside him, holding 2 glasses of whiskey. "To the Vanguard," Drew said. Kane took 1 glass, the amber liquid catching the station's lights. "To the Vanguard," he repeated. They clinked their glasses softly. Below them, Earth spun in silence, unaware of the dark fleet that would one day come for it. But Kane knew that when they arrived, humanity would be ready. They had faced the unknown with nothing but stubbornness, steel, and grit, and they had won. The Vanguard might have been old, outdated, and unwanted, but now she was something more. She was proof that when everything else fails, humans can still fight with their hands, their instincts, and their will to survive. And somewhere out there, the Sypher-9 were learning the same lesson the hard way. Humans were not as easy to erase as they thought.